Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intentional Productivity Tips. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner. My name is Megan, and I want to thank you for spending some time with me today. Today, our goal, as always, is to talk about productivity. Why is productivity so important, and why is it the thing I talk about all the time? Because it's someplace that makes a big difference in our lives. If we're intentional with our productivity habits, processes, automations, and mindset, we're going to take control of our lives so that we can enjoy what we've worked so hard to create. Again, I am Megan. This is Intentional Productivity Tips. You are watching me on USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube channel. Please remember to like, subscribe, and even be notified of when new episodes drop. Also, check out USA Global TV and Radio's other shows that are available. There's some really great stuff out there to help you be the best person you can. So again, I said, this is Intentional Productivity Tips. We are going to talk about productivity today. And today I am very excited because we are going to start a 4-part series today. Today, we are going to start a 4-part series I like to call Tracking Your Vital Information. And it falls for me under a productivity tip. So today we are going to start, as I mentioned, we are going to start a 4-part series about tracking vital information. This again all falls under productivity tips. So let's pull up a presentation. One of the reasons I also like this week's topics is you'll notice that some of the graphics bring in one of my favorite themes, rocks and beaches. But what you'll notice when we're talking about vital information, I do think that it is like stacking information, and it's finding information, and it's gathering information and finding how we can capture information we need so we can access it later. So let's look at what we're going to talk about today. So as I mentioned, we are going to talk about vital information. This is specifically your personal vital information. As I mentioned, this is a 4-part series. Today we're doing part 1, which is tracking your personal vital information. Over the next 3 weeks, we're going to look at tracking your business information. We're going to talk about tracking your portfolio professional accomplishments. And then we're going to talk about your digital footprint and what you need to track digitally as well. But let's get started today. Today, we're going to start looking at tracking your personal vital information. And so today's information is about personal information. This is personal information for you, spouse, partner, children, and family. This is information for them. So we're going to do a quick tip this week where you're going to give you an opportunity to rate yourself and see how you're doing, where you can access your vital information. We're going to talk about tracking your vital information, and then I have sample vital information tracking for your personal information. So those are the things we're going to talk about today. I'll be honest, there have been times when I am working with clients when I am like, okay, let's talk about your vital information. And one of the things I'll say to them is, let's spend a little bit of time when we meet looking at how you are tracking your vital information. There's a lot of times when I bring this up to my clients, and some of my clients will say, oh, Megan, that's not productivity. We don't have to talk about that. I'll be honest with you. Whenever I have a client that says, oh, we don't need to talk about that, I completely at that point understand that we absolutely need to talk about it because they are trying to avoid it. And I appreciate it. And I do the same thing. But when I'm your strategic productivity partner, we're going to talk about the things that we need to talk about because it's going to help you in the long run. I've had clients in the past that say, oh, I don't need to have that information. And my answer is yes. You need to be able to track vital information for you and your family and be able to know where it's at. And let's be honest, the best time to track it is not when you need it. So the best time to track and talk about vital information and your personal information you're tracking for you and your family is not when you need it because you're calling a doctor's office to make an appointment. It is not when you are getting ready to go out of town and you realize, oh no, my passport may have expired. Those are all things we want to avoid. So do you see why I'm talking and saying that vital information is connected to your productivity? Because tracking your vital information helps you track to be able to get things done. So let's start with just a little bit of a quiz. I'm going to ask you, how well do you know your vital information? So I am going to ask you 5 questions. And the reason is because this is a one-handed quiz we can use with one hand. So for each of the following 5 questions I ask you, what I would like for you to do is, if you know where it is, if you have access to the information, you're going to give yourself a point. If you can't, you're not going to give yourself a point. And at the end, we're going to count and see how you are at tracking your vital information. So let's get started. 5 questions. Question number 1. Where is your birth certificate? Give yourself a point if you know and have access to your birth certificate. Do not give yourself a point if you do. Are you ready for the next question? So number 1, birth certificate. Point or not? Number 2, where is your TSA global entry number and expiration date? Do you have access to your global entry travel information number and expiration date? Point yes. No point no. So where are you right now? Do you have 1 or 2 points? Or 0? Let's hope not. But that could happen and that's okay. We're going to address it. Okay, question number 3. Where is a list of current medications you have for you and your family? If you know where it is, give yourself a point. If you don't know where it is, if you don't have a list of medication for yourself and family, no point. Number 4, do you know your password for your email account? Do you know your specific password for your email account or know where you can find it? If yes, give yourself a point. If no, do not give yourself a point. 5, where is a list of important dates you like to celebrate? Birthdays, celebrations, holidays, anniversaries, important days in history, important days. Where is a list of important dates you like to celebrate? Give yourself a point if you have that list. Do not give yourself a point if you don't. So I asked 5 questions. How many fingers are you holding up right now? What is your answer? Because that answer is going to help us see exactly where you are on the vital information pro spectrum, right? So once you count your number of points, if you scored 5 points, you are a vital information ninja. You're a pro at keeping your information organized and secure. Keep doing what you're doing. Tell your friends and family you are a vital information ninja, and baby, you're a star. If you scored 4 points, you're still a vital information master. You're close to being a ninja. Just a couple more things to keep track of. What are those so you can become a ninja? If you scored 3 points, you are a vital information strategist. You are on the right path, but there's a few places you can tighten up. If you scored 2 points, you are in this vital information world as an explorer. You've got the basics covered, but you could benefit from better tracking systems. 1 point, did you get 1 point? You are a vital information novice. You've got to start, but it's time to get organized and track your vital information. Or if you have 0, you are a vital information beginner, and that is okay. We celebrate all levels of vital information and where we are, because the good news is it's something we're being intentional and we're taking action. So you are a vital information beginner, no worries. Now's the perfect time to get started. now's the perfect time to start organizing your vital information. So how did you do on that? I will be honest. I am a vital information ninja right now, and that is because I ordered my birth certificate at the beginning of the month. And so I will be honest that is how I am a ninja right now. But I hope that you take actions so that you can become a vital information ninja for yourself. When I start talking to clients about this, again, there's sometimes some hesitation, sometimes not, about what and how we're going to do this. So let's talk a little bit about tracking your vital information and why it's a productivity tip. Now, let's talk about some tips. Now, one of the things we need to remember is tracking vital information is a process. It's a process. It's not anything that you're all just going to be able to have at once, right? When we think of vital information, we're going to look at what all vital information includes in just a moment. But one of the things to remember is that it's a process. It's not just a transaction. It's a process that you're continually going to work on. So it's important to be intentional about it. It's a process that you're going to continue to gather as you need. So you need to think about and have a place to keep everything. It's also important to start with one thing at a time. I've had clients get overwhelmed and they're like, I don't know where to start. It's too much. And it's like, okay, we're not going to start with too much. What we're going to do is we're going to look at what's most important for you. What we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, what do we need to collect now? What can we collect next? What can we collect after? It's all, again, starting to identify what's one thing we can start with and start moving forward with. It's about gathering information, right? There's not just necessarily one piece of information. And it's not, when I'm talking about vital information, I'm not talking about it's going to be necessarily a beautiful spreadsheet. Now, sometimes people have that and their vital information looks beautiful, and that is great. But this is a functional process of gathering information where you don't have to worry about it, what it looks like or anything. Just get it and capture it into one place. It's also important when capturing vital information to personalize, because all of us have different lives. All of us have different factors in our lives. All of us have different things that are important that we need to track. So it's important for you to identify what's important for you. Now, I will say, and I'm going to make some recommendations, and I do have as a productivity, our weekly productivity quick tip, I actually have a spreadsheet that I'm going to share with you. And one of the reasons I bring this up when I talk about personalize, there are some times, because I, as a productivity partner, as a strategic productivity partner, I have had clients, again, we know hundreds of clients from around the world. I've had both male and female clients. Now, most of the time, there is not a difference between working with men and women. Well, there is, but that's another story. We're going to say when we're working with people, we're working with people. I will tell you, one place that I have definitely noticed a difference when working with men and women is with tracking our personal vital information and how we personalize it. And so that's one of the reasons when I'm working with clients, looking at, okay, what's important for you? I'm going to be honest, and I'm not even exaggerating here. 90% of my male clients, at one point when we're working together, they have started a list of tracking weight and weight loss and where they are with their weight, and they add that to their vital information. I'm going to be honest with you. 0% of my women clients have tracked their weight or any information regarding that. So this is why I say that it's important to personalize. And again, not just because differences of men and women and humans and where we are, where we live, if we're parents, if we're not, if we have kids that are grown. When you think about it, there is a lot of factors in our lives besides our interests that go into what vital information we need to collect. So that's one of the reasons that I always stress to personalize, because it's important for what fits and is important for your life. The format and the beautification of your vital information, that will come. The first thing we want to do is we want to build it, right? We want to gather the information first and then worry about the formatting. The most important thing is to have the information in one place. I always recommend to review and adjust your vital information regularly. And this is for you. You don't need to worry about anyone else's feedback or thoughts or suggestions. Your vital information, because it's personal, is for you. So identify what you want to track, and then where you want to track it. Are you going to keep a note? Is it going to be in your notes? Is there a document that you're going to keep? Is it going to be something physical? Is it a separate file? Are there several places? Is it a spreadsheet? Is it a Monday or one of your apps that you use board? When you think about it, the options are endless, and we don't want to get overwhelmed by that. So you just want to pick one place where you're going to track your information to get started. Because once you go in the process, you can adjust and improve as you go. But getting started is the best place. So let's look a little bit about identifying your vital information categories. Again, we want to identify and start to gather information that's important for you. So what are your personal details? Personal details including social security number, birth certificate, address, maybe your history of addresses, phone numbers. I don't always remember some of my phone numbers, so I need to write them down or track them someplace. Again, personal information for you that's important for you. Another category, insurance. Do you know where all of your insurance information is? Do you know your insurance policy? Do you know where you've got a summary plan description? Do you know what your deductible is? Do you know when those calendars are? What is that? That's all for like medical and health insurance, right? Do you have life insurance? Do you have insurance on family members? Do you have home insurance? What are all of the insurance? Do you have pet insurance, AFLAC? Any insurance you have, you want to, again, gather those policies and information into one place. Because let's be honest, if you need to look for your if you have a need for your policy and you're looking, it's a stressful situation. The last thing you want to do is add stress. And adding stress is not having it in your vital information. So what we're doing now is we're reducing some stress for later. Another category, your family, including your spouse or partner and kids. What are their birth certificate information, their birth dates for your spouse? Do you have any schooling or education information? What's his employment information? Do you need any information about their financial background, passport, anything like that for your spouse? For your kids, same thing. Where are those documents that you're tracking? Do you need anything about their school? What school are they going to? When's their vacation? Do you have a platform you have to log on to see their grades? Do you have an email for that platform and a login? Again, what are the information and the vital things you need for your kids? Legal and financial. Now, I do have this as a separate category. Sometimes people put it in insurance, and that is fine. Again, do what you want. I just, again, want to focus on the importance of legal. Do you have I'm getting my letters confused right now. Do you have a will? Do you have a medical director? Do you have a medical directory? And that's not the right form, and it's leaving my head right now. But do you have any instructions that you have legally for yourself, your finances? Financial information, bank account information. Again, do you have a list of accounts? Do you have a list of, I have a Venmo, I have a Cash App. Do you have a list of payments? Do you have a list of those things? Anything that you need legally or financially. Again, when we need those documents, it's best to know where they are rather than having to spend time and pull out our hair looking for. The next, and I've kept this separate, parents. For those of us in the sandwich generation, sandwich last name, I love calling myself the sandwich generation, although I'm really kind of not the sandwich generation because I don't have kids, but I do have an aging parent like many of us do. And so there are some information I've started to need to keep track of, my siblings and I, for our mother, things like her social security number, things like her insurance, any of her legal documents, her medical conditions, right? Anything related to her. If there's a facility she's looking to move into, again, any parental information that we need. Do we need to pay their bills? Do we have their log on, or do we know, can they access things like electricity and gas and their phone? Having that information for our parents, especially as our parents age, let's be honest, it's getting more and more important. So parent information is super huge when it comes to vital information. And if you don't have parent information to track right now, I definitely apologize. And I say, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for your loss. Housing information. Information, whether you rent, whether you own. Obviously, if you own, there's going to be documents and finances and housing and all of those things that you want to look at. So it's important to start looking at housing, health information, passwords and websites. All of this is vital details that we need and want to be able to have so that we know where it is. Again, make your vital information process working for you. I know I gave a lot of examples. And again, the reason is because when I talk to my clients and we get to vital information and I start talking about some of the categories, they'll say to me, I never thought about that, especially when it comes to parents, kids, spouse. We have a lot of information we're tracking in this world. So what are the categories that will work for you? Okay, so we've identified where you are, hopefully, where you are with tracking your vital information. Are you a ninja, a master, a strategist, or are you beginning? We also have looked at the importance of value and now the categories for how you can personalize it. This week's productivity quick tip is specifically looking at an example of a spreadsheet and some of the categories to look at. Keeping your information in one place will make life smarter, not harder. That I guarantee. You'll notice, as for those of you who have worked with me or have seen many of my shows, I am a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets because of the way they track information. So I will be honest and say, I did try and move my vital information into a Monday board, by the way, and it worked better in the spreadsheet just with everything. So you could use different ways for it. But so one of the things you'll notice right here is that I have a spreadsheet, and this is so across the bottom, you'll see I've got my different areas, right? I've got personal vital information, family, parents. So what I've done is I do a tab for each category, and then I start dumping information into each tab, into each category. So you'll notice the first example is I have family information. And so I have information down the left, and then I actually have each family member so I can gather their family information. I've worked with this. I've used this with several clients, and they've really enjoyed it, and they've found it useful. I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but they've found it useful and easy in this format. We also have another example. So again, you want to make your tracking spreadsheet yours. You want to make sure the information is going to be useful to you. And so you want to identify how and what you can track it to make it best for you. As I've said, I do use a spreadsheet. Here's another example. And this is tracking health information. Again, you'll notice tracking health information. I have myself, and if there's any additional family members, you'll notice I have things like medications, medication allergies, chronic issues, chronic conditions. I also have a list of surgeries. I have unfortunately had far too many. And so going through my medical history can be long. So I've documented it for myself. Again, do what works for you. The goal with tracking vital information, the goal of all of this is for you to have accessible and know that you can access information for your life when needed, because we know that's going to help you take care of your productivity. As every week, my goal is that you can at least take one thing with you to help improve your life with productivity. Improve, change your relationship with productivity. And today, our goal is to change our relationship with productivity related to vital information we may need and how we can track it. We talked about 3 things. We rated our vital information. Do you have any follow-up actions from that? We also talked about tracking your vital information, why, and the categories. And then this week's productivity quick tip was sample vital information tracking. If you are curious and would like to see my sample spreadsheet, please feel free to email me, reach out to me. I am accessible at megan@indelible.global. That's megan@indelible.global. Please feel free, as I mentioned, if you have questions or if you would like a copy of my spreadsheet, I'm very happy to send it to you. What I tell everyone, take what I've started and elevate it and make it perfect for you. My name is Megan. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner, and I am so thankful you have spent this time with me. I truly thank you for spending time talking about intentional productivity tips. You are watching me on USA Global TV and Radio. You can find me here every Thursday afternoon. You can at 2 o'clock Pacific time. I am here. Next week, we have session 2, part 2 of our vital information, and that's tracking your vital business information. I want to thank you again today. As I've already mentioned, but I want to mention again, I am Megan, your very favorite strategic productivity partner. And I thank you for joining me on USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube channel. And I hope that you'll join me next week. And now a word from our sponsors.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honored to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.